Hello everyone, so today I'm going to talk about my experience with my iPad Pro that I've been using for the last 4 months. So I'm going to give Apple their props because they nailed the iPad. There's no other tablets that I've tested out beyond the iPad that works as great as the iPad does. So what I try to do is expand upon the iPad capability. So at first I tried to hook up a keyboard, an external keyboard, because I didn't want one of those keyboards that's attached to it where you have to lug it around all the time. I wanted my iPad to be free of any attachment while I'm lugging it around. Because when I do use the keyboard, it'll be in a setting where I'm either in a hotel room or I'm at home or at work. Other than that, while I'm moving around, I don't need the keyboard attached to the device at that time. So I decided to go out and buy an extra Xbox controller to hook it up to my iPad Pro because I wanted to have some type of mobile game experience using the iPad. Because after hooking up an external keyboard, it felt like I had a laptop because everything on the iPad OS functions like a laptop. So when I got the controller, I was hoping to get that same mobile experience as far as a mobile gaming system. But I'm gonna let you know right now, the experience was not what I expected. So first off, trying to hook up the controller gave me a little issue. It didn't want to connect, it didn't want to pair, I should say. And I tried it several different times. After putting it in pairing mode, it seized the controller, but it didn't want to connect. So after powering down the controller and powering down the iPad, power everything back on, they recognized each other and then they finally paired. So I don't know what was going on. I can't explain it, but now it's connected to the iPad. So I went to the App Store, downloading some games, thinking I should have no problem playing any game that I download with this controller. So the first game I downloaded was Sega Street of Rage 2 Classic, which is that old school side scroller beat 'em up type of game. I fired up the game, grabbed the controller, and everything worked fine. I was able to punch, kick, move up, move down, move left, move right. No issue at all. I went to 2 stages of gameplay and even played 2 different characters. So now I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited that it was worth me purchasing this controller. But that joy got yanked away when I started playing other games that I thought would work with the controller. So the next game I downloaded was 1945, which is one of those shoot up game that, you know, you move the ship around and then you're just firing bullets everywhere. So I fired up the game and I realized the ship was just shooting by itself. I haven't even touched the controller yet. So I started moving the joystick left and right and I noticed that the ship wasn't responding. So I'm like, okay, well, what's going on here? Did the controller disconnect from the iPad again? Based on the issue I was having in the beginning, trying to connect it to the iPad. So I went into settings to double check and it said it was still connected. So when I put my finger on the tablet now and I started moving it back and forth, I realized this is not a controller driven game. This is a touchscreen driven game. So I said, okay, well, maybe it's just one of those games. So I moved on to another game, and that game was Need for Speed. I said a driving game has to use the controller. So after I download it, open it up, I'll grab my controller, I'm ready to go, but then the car was driving itself. And I'm like, what's going on here? I'm having the same experience like the game that I just tried to play where it was shooting by itself. So I tried to steer the car with the controller and it wasn't responding. So I touched the screen of the iPad, move it left, move it right. And then I realized it's another game that requires you touching the screen. It doesn't work with the controller. So it's time to move on again. What else is on the App Store that might work with the controller? So I see Marvel's Contest of Champions and I said, okay, one of those fighting games that probably work with this controller. So I download it, open it up, grab the controller, getting ready to have some one-on-one blow using my controller, but it doesn't work. Another touchscreen kind of game. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe none of these games work with a controller. Then I ran into Call of Duty Mobile and I said, okay, a first-person shooter gotta work with a controller. But I was let down one more time after I fired up the game and the controller wasn't responding to the character on the screen. So what I'm telling you right here, if you plan on buying an iPad and then attaching a controller to it, whether you're PlayStation 4 or the Xbox controller, or even the one that's provided by Apple, you're going to be sadly disappointed that there's a lot of games that's on the store that doesn't use the controller, which is kind of a bummer because this iPad Pro has a lot of power in it where you can turn it into a mobile gaming system along with a lot of other things. And with the disappointing fact that the controller doesn't work with a lot of these games that's available on the iPad, it's kind of a downer, especially if you go out and buy like the 12-inch iPad Pro. You don't want to be holding that thing up trying to play a game. You just lay it down on your desk and then you can start playing away. And that's how I think it should be. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So if you're going out there buying this iPad and then you're getting an Xbox controller or PlayStation controller or even Apple's controller themselves with the hope to play some arcade style game using a controller, well, you're going to be sadly disappointed. Now, there are games that's available through the App Store that does use the controller, but you need to do a little research. I'm pretty sure there's a list out there somewhere, or you just have to use trial and error. Like I said, the first game I tried, the Streets of Rage, got me excited that this controller is going to be the thing that I would like to keep because I can play arcade style game on my iPad. But now I got to take this thing back because I don't want an extra controller for an iPad that only play a few games. And it probably work with a lot of other games that I don't like playing. You know, first person shooters, driving games, fighting one-on-one game is the type of game I like. And if I can't use the controller to play those types of game, well, this is useless to me. So I just wanted to share my experience with you that I had trying to hook up this controller to the iPad to play arcade style game. But a lot of these games are not actually designed to work with a controller. Hopefully that will change in the future. But for now, this is going back to the store. Okay, so that's going to be it for now. I want to thank you for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.